What if the river that defines your jurisdiction isn't just a crime scene, but a liquid archive of every sin the town has tried to wash away, and the only way to solve the present is to stop fighting the current and start listening to what the silt remembers? In The Midnight Dredge, Georgia Wagner and Scott Cook deliver a procedural thriller that transforms the serial investigation trope into a haunting meditation on ecological memory, proving that in landscapes shaped by water, justice isn't about extraction, it's about restoration. This isn't merely another detective novel with forensic breakthroughs, it's an atmospheric, emotionally precise narrative where every submerged clue carries generational weight. Consent to investigate is negotiated through respect for the dead rather than procedural entitlement, and truth requires honoring the river's rhythm over the department's deadline. From the first engine hum narration, listeners are immersed in a world where darkness isn't absence, but presence, and clarity comes only to those willing to be unsettled. Perfect for fans of character-driven suspense and stories where environment is co-investigator, this audiobook serves up relentless aquatic dread, unflinching authenticity, and a protagonist whose journey from rigid enforcer to fluid witness resonates with anyone who's ever mistaken control for competence. When Detective Jonathan Hunt is called to recover a body from the Blackwater River during a midnight dredging operation, he expects routine evidence collection, not to discover the victim's positioning mirrors three unsolved cases spanning decades, each tied to the river's shifting course and the town's refusal to acknowledge its own complicity. But as Hunt navigates murky waters and institutional resistance, he realizes this case isn't about catching a killer, it's about confronting how his own methodology has mirrored the very erasure he seeks to undo. Wagner and Cook masterfully avoid reducing Hunt to tortured detective or the river to symbolic backdrop. Instead, they craft a narrative where investigation becomes relational practice, where consent is negotiated through humility rather than authority, and where resolution requires integrating ecological wisdom with forensic rigor. The audiobook narration amplifies this emotional precision, capturing Hunt's disciplined focus softening into receptive stillness, while secondary voices shift subtly between bureaucratic defensiveness and ancestral knowing, making every dive feel like both excavation and apology. You don't just hear the mystery unfold, you feel the seismic shift of a man learning that some truths can only be found when you stop demanding they surface. What elevates The Midnight Dredge beyond typical procedural fare is its nuanced portrayal of environmental forensics as ethical reckoning rather than technical exercise. Hunt isn't merely solving crimes, he's confronting how law enforcement culture taught him to treat landscapes as resources rather than witnesses, challenging the notion that objectivity requires detachment. His relationships evolve through acts of radical reciprocity, sharing silences with river elders whose knowledge bypasses official records, establishing protocols that honor both evidence integrity and cultural sanctity, and defending the river's right to retain secrets against systems that demand total exposure. Supporting characters add vital texture, divers whose expertise encodes embodied memory, historians whose archives map emotional geographies, even the dredge itself rendered as a mechanical confessor whose churned sediment releases decades of suppressed testimony. Every interaction reinforces the novel's core truth. In ecosystems built on flow, rigidity is violence, and presence is the only reliable compass. Even the thriller mechanics serve thematic depth, with tidal cycles mirroring investigative pacing and submerged artifacts becoming metaphors for repressed communal trauma. For audiobook listeners, this production is an immersive sensory descent into aqueous intimacy. The narrator embodies Hunt's evolution with remarkable range, from clipped professionalism to trembling openness during breakthroughs, while supporting characters are distinguished through vocal textures that honor regional cadence without caricature. Sound design enhances atmosphere without overwhelming immersion. distant water lapping marking temporal rhythm, rain against boat hulls during vulnerable confessions, the hushed gurgle of oxygen tanks sinking with breath during moments of revelation, all anchor existential stakes in tangible reality. Pacing mirrors the cadence of river work, deliberate during preparation and reflection, then surging with urgency as external pressures collide with internal awakenings. Whether you're commuting through dry land or sitting in twilight solitude, the audiobook creates a portable vessel where slowness feels sacred and connection feels lifeline. It's storytelling as embodied validation, transforming passive listening into active participation in a journey where healing isn't about draining the swamp, but about learning to navigate its depths. Press play, cast off, and prepare to believe that even in landscapes shaped by concealment, truth still finds ways to rise. Your next favorite thriller isn't waiting in solved cases, it's waiting in the brave, trembling choice to listen to what the water knows.